Praise for South Africa's commitment to democracy. Electoral Commission of SA IEC Chief Electoral Officer Sy Mamabolo has expressed gratitude for South Africans' commitment to democracy. This as the 2024 national and provincial elections approach. He highlighted significant milestones, including the casting of over 56,000 votes abroad and preparations for special votes. With more than 90 million ballots printed, Mamabolo emphasized the importance of integrity in the voting process and announced the launch of its National Results Operations Centre. The IEC said the center, located at the Gallagher Convention Centre in Midrand for the first time, would serve as the primary management hub for the electoral operations. The Commission praised South Africans who supported the journey towards this year's democratic elections. Dear Rezamia also received praise for supporting democracy. The aesthetics and anti-aging specialist and creator of Pegasus Universal Aerospace recorded a song encouraging people to vote. Titled Each of Us Raise Your Vote, Maya worked with his friends Lex Slade and RJ Benjamin, his voice coach, Goofy, his producer, and his lawyer Natalia. As innovator, Maya has received an award for projects he has been working on for almost a decade to create a pioneering vertical take-off and landing aircraft. Now that voting is 4 days away, voters must understand the voting process to ensure their ballot counts. For instance, one could mistakenly mark one's vote next to the wrong party, but is there resource for that? One common concern of what can happen during the voting process is unintentionally spoiling a ballot by voting for a party A instead of party B, for example. According to the IEC spokesperson Tabani Ngwira, voters are entitled to request a replacement ballot, but this can only be done before the voter has deposited the vote into the ballot box. Voters can approach an election official and explain the situation. Ngwira said polling stations were equipped with a sufficient supply of ballots to accommodate these types of errors. Election officials understood that mistakes happened, and their primary goal is to facilitate a smooth voting process for everyone. Elections 2024, a pivotal moment for democracy. IEC ready to collect the will of the people. In just a few days, our registered voters will have a constitutional encounter at the voting stations. The encounter will offer each voter a unique opportunity to register a political choice. An election in an intersection between a people and their political rights. This defining encounter is an affirmation, one without prevarication, of our collective commitment to electoral democracy with its silent characteristics of regular elections within a system of multi-party competition. The Electoral Commission is the motive force for facilitating this constitutional encounter for the country. Differently put, the Commission is an instrument at the service of a people to enable this constitutional encounter. This election is about making democracy work or giving democracy practical face. This is the perspective that informs our understanding of the enormity of the constitutional responsibility we carry. We owe South Africa and her people an election that undoubtedly measures to the international and our own constitutional standards. Failure in this regard will have a history pronounce harsh sentiments on us and our generation. As we approach the grand finale of this electoral odyssey, the Commission today launches the National Results Operations Centre, ROC, a theatre of electoral transparency. Indeed, a theatre of electoral dreams and political aspirations. Like the biblical Peter, this is the ROC on which South Africa builds its house for manifesting electoral transparency. Indeed, a prism through which the world is given a glimpse of intricacies of electoral operations. Housed at the Gallagher Convention Centre in Midrand, Johannesburg, this ROC will serve as the beating heart of our electoral process. It comprises offices for commissioners and staff, operational areas for coordinating the entire electoral process, political parties, operational areas, radio and television studios. The ROC is the foundation upon which electoral transparency rests. All role players will have appropriate access to various system-based reports. These reports will provide a national state to play vis-a-vis the unfolding electoral process. A matter of substantial import is that results of each voting station, once audited, will be instantaneously available to political parties and the media through an application programming interface, API. This ROC will be an enduring symbol of our electoral architecture. Indeed, a temporary monument for the facilitation of constitutional guarantees so eloquently elucidated in Section 19 of our Constitution. But this ROC will be a platform from which our collective leadership will be tested. It will be a ground from where our vaunted love for the motherland will be tested. There will be similar ROCs across all the 9 provinces. Today, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment as the journey to the elections enter its final and most critical stage. An important milestone was reached on 17th May when the first votes in these elections were cast. We have seen throngs of South Africa voters at 111 diplomatic missions enthusiastically waiting their turn to express their political choices in this constitutional encounter. Although we have no definitive account of voter turnout at this point, preliminary indications are that we have significantly surpassed previous performance. Once again, our gratitude goes to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation and its staff for making this exercise possible. Without this partnership, the constitutional encounter for citizens in this world would certainly have been impossible. Remarkable in this joyous atmosphere created by South Africans at the various missions, the patience displayed also served to indicate their commitment to vote. This is the spirit that we need to take into the elections next week. We need to be patient and create a joyous atmosphere at the voting stations for elections that are also about celebrating our common nationhood. The logical progression in the unfolding electoral process is to provide registered voters in special circumstances as opportunities so that they too are availed of an opportunity for political expression. We have a model of electoral democracy that recognizes the need for special arrangements. Our electoral scheme is not an exclusive preserve for the fit and healthy. It is rather a constitutional encounter for registered citizens. Therefore, the Commission will administer special votes from 1,668,076 voters on the 2 days preceding Election Day. Pertinently, voting officials will visit 624,593 voters at their homes or places of confinement, and 1,043,483 will be assisted at voting stations where they are registered. Only 684 voting stations will not open on special voting days because they do not have a special vote to administer. The provinces with the most approved special votes for both home visits and voting station visits are Gauteng 335,480, KwaZulu-Natal 320 and 10, Eastern Cape 380,059, Limpopo 159,800, Western Cape 137,558, Northwest 132,627, Mpumalanga 126,112, Free State 86,908, and Northern Cape 83,504. It is important to point out that in addition to our trained electoral staff, agents from political parties and independent candidates, as well as the accredited observers, are allowed to join mobile teams as they visit various homes. We nonetheless offer a caution that some voters may be in dire circumstances and thus request that their privacy be honored so as to vindicate their dignity. As we embark on this momentous journey, we find inspiration in the unwavering commitment of electoral staff who are charged with the actual facilitation of the voting process at 23,292 voting stations. These officials will diligently attend to the need of those unable to visit the stations, ensuring a seamless and inclusive voting experience for all. We have appointed 203,000 electoral staff to administer the voting process. A further 70,000 officials have been appointed as counting officers to enhance the counting quality of the counting and result slip completion. This additional capacity is not meant to supplant the role of the presiding officer, but is intended as an additional resource to facilitate counting. This new feature of the counting process underscores our resolute commitment to upholding the integrity of the electoral process. The profile of the voting staff is as follows: 73% female, 28% youth under the age of 25, 84% unemployed. As we hand over a baton to presiding officers to facilitate the voting process, we also remind them to never compromise electoral probity, which is the cornerstone of integrity. We say that this election is not about us and our prejudices. An election is about the 27 million registered voters whose political choices we are called to facilitate and record. We dare not fail. A ballot paper is a basic commodity in the electoral process. An election without a ballot paper, either electronic or physical, is an affront to the very notion of election. The Commission, therefore, takes immense pride in announcing the completion of the ballot printing project. Final packaging and labeling are being done and delivery will be finalized immediately. The final leg of the distribution chain at local storage sites is aligned with the commencement of the casting of special votes on May 27th. Revisions to the electoral system have had implications to the number of ballot papers to be used in these elections. As a novel reality, I briefly outline the ballots as follows. 1. the national proportional representation ballot, which will bear political parties only. This is to be used to restore overall proportionality and thus ensure the outcome of an election is proportional in general in compliance with constitutional requirements. This is the blue ballot. Second, the provincial to national or regional ballot is meant to ensure provisional representation in the composition of the National Assembly. The election based on this style of the National Assembly will be contested by parties and independent candidates. This is the brown ballot. Third, provincial ballots are used to elect members of provincial legislature. Both parties and independent candidates are contesting on this ballot. This ballot is pink. Given the prodigious number of 52 contestants on the national ballot paper, this ballot is configured in 2 columns with 26 parties on each side. To generate inadvertent spoils of this ballot, we remind all voters of the hallowed principle of voting: 1 ballot, 1 mark. It is with great honor that we welcome a record-breaking approximately 160 organizations, which will cumulatively deploy over 5,000 observers. This includes esteemed international bodies such as the African Union, the Carter Center Democracy Program, and the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, SADC, and the Electoral Commissions Forum of SADC countries, alongside legions of domestic observers committed to upholding the principles of transparency and accountability. In our pursuit of inclusivity, we have implemented measures to ensure that the voting process is accessible to all South Africans regardless of physical abilities. In collaboration with the South African National Council for the Blind, we have again developed the Universal Ballot Template, a voting aid designed to empower persons with disabilities and special needs to exercise their voting rights independently and with utmost secrecy. As we approach this historic moment, we remind all voters of the general principle that governs our elections: a person votes at a voting station where they are registered. The only exemption to this rule is for those who have duly notified the Commission of their intentions to vote outside their registered voting district. A call upon all South Africans to answer the clarion call to make one cause with the constitutional encounter by voting in these elections. To the media, political party leaders, and all the stakeholders, let us foster an environment rooted in trust, integrity, and respect, setting an example for generations to come. The Electoral Commission stands resolute in its commitment to declaring an election outcome that is a true reflection of the choices made by the South African people, the ultimate custodians of the democracy. For it is your democracy, and you must truly own it. May the spirit of unity, peace, and patriotism guide us as we embark on this historic journey, ensuring that the will of the people remains the unwavering foundation upon which our nation's future is built. Sy Mamabolo is the Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission of South Africa. And that's it from INJIBS Network. Stay tuned to our celebrity and gossip news.